So today's video is about the Vedas, Gnosticism, and their worldview. Now, according to the Vedas, all you see, is an illusion. It is called Maya, the material world, the phenomenal world, the world of the five senses, or the six senses, including the mind. So the world as sensed is supposedly illusory, and by illusion we mean that which is not. So all this, everything you see and perceive, is supposedly a temporary manifestation. So in this sense, we are just visitors that are just passing through this realm. According to the Vedas, you and I, are essentially the same. We are eternal. Not only are we eternal, we are omniscient. We know everything. We know everything already that there is to know. So the idea that we need to look outside of ourselves for knowledge is another illusion, because we know everything already. And this aligns with Gnosis as well, the Gnostics. So we are eternal, we are full of knowledge, but also, in quality, we are blissful. We're always in bliss, blissed out all the time. And it's a very nice place to be, which is why in this so-called material realm, you got a lot of people doing drugs. It's a sort of simulation or perversion of that original constitutional bliss. So you get a glimpse of that bliss with psychedelics like DMT, ayahuasca, MDMA, LSD. They get you close to the reality. They give you a clue. They clue you into your true nature. So if we're eternal, full of knowledge and blissful, then why are we in a world of time, which is finite? Why is there so much ignorance in the world? And why is there so much suffering in the world? It's as though we're experiencing the exact opposite. Now, the only explanation for this is because we chose to experience the exact opposite. We chose to experience suffering, ignorance, and time, because we're not that. So, duality is creation, and through the creation, the fantasy which we're living in of duality, we come back to ourselves. We return to the innocence, the original state of grace. The proverbial fall from grace was an act of volition. As James Joyce writes in Ulysses, a genius makes no mistakes because their acts are volitional, self-willed, and are the portals to discovery. So it's as if we've opted to play this game of ignorance, of self-forgetfulness, and go through all these trials of suffering, of ignorance, of limitation, only to find that, okay, here we are. I've been through that rite of passage. I've been through the fires, the purging fires of illusion. And here we are. We are still here. Well done. But that's because you and I are of the same substance. We are one consciousness. And that consciousness, that singular consciousness, is eternal, full of knowledge, and blissful. So that consciousness has fragmented itself into individual forms, you and I. So why aren't we just uniting now and having this massive bliss fest, together? Because of ignorance. However, everyone now, in this period of time, is reawakening to their true nature, and this is quite beautiful. As I said, how did we get here in the first place? Well, one argument is that we chose this. Another argument, which is founded in Gnosticism, is that we didn't choose this, but this was created by the demiurge, which is the false creator. So a lot of people believe in God, but that's a sort of not specifically designated God. It's the demiurge, who's like this this artificer, this fabricator, this great architect of the universe. It's not the ultimate source of all that is. It's sort of like something that feeds off its creations. In modern schools of thought, many call this the false light matrix, and the Gnostics talk about transcending this false material platform, and going back into what is known as the pleroma, or the true light of source, which can be compared to the impersonal Brahman in the Vedas. So, essentially this video was an attempt at comparative religion, or comparative spirit science, you could say. So, the ultimate goal of the Vedas is to surrender completely to the original source, the true source of all that is. This is supposedly Sri Krishna, who dwells independently above and beyond this material world. He has his own set of planets, the spiritual planets. So the Vedics say, by surrendering fully to the supreme personality of Godhead, you end up transcending this material world, this simulation, this matrix. Whilst the Gnostics say that you need to be aware of what's happening, aware that this is a simulation, aware that this has been created by the demiurge. And all the knowledge you need lies within. You do not need a middleman between yourself and God. The kingdom of heaven lies within. The Gnostic Gospels have been purposefully excised from the Bible to keep people in ignorance. Why? Because the true knowledge was in Gnosticism, gnosis, knowledge, self-knowledge, know thyself. So the Gnostics were very independent, self-empowered individuals. They didn't look outside for knowledge or validation or confirmation for anything. They knew everything innately, intuitively. So when you get systems of control like religion and government, they're going to provide you with, scripture. And either the scripture can be taken for what it is, literally, or it can be interpreted through allegory or symbolism, or decoding it, so to speak. So if you're given some scripture, would you accept it blindly and surrender fully to it? Or would you have free and critical thought? Christianity and Gnosticism was basically all born from the teachings of someone who was self-realized, a chap called Yeshua. And he became Christ conscious, in that he had an experience of cosmic consciousness, realizing that, okay, we are all one consciousness. And therefore, since we are one consciousness, therefore we are unconditional love. So if it's all about loving the self, loving the other, loving everything as it is, because if everything's essentially everything's, then love everything. unconditionally. And Jesus, as we know him today, he didn't write anything down. So it's all sort of second-hand. And likewise with the Vedas, it's called the parampara system, disciplic succession. And so you pass down nuggets of knowledge down the line throughout the ages. But of course it can be a bit like Chinese whispers. The meaning and intention behind what was originally stated could easily have been garbled or compromised along the way. So we can't really know exactly. Can we rely on passed down knowledge? Like when Socrates, like Jesus, he never wrote down everything. He had his scribes, Plato. So these scriptures, I see them as maps, but do not mistake the maps for the territory. They are a means to an end. They are like a GPS system that you're given in these modern day vehicles. And most of the time, the GPS system is pretty spot on, but not always. Sometimes it leads you astray, and you have to go back and actually, use your common sense or intuition. So, with social institutions like religion and government, you're always surrendering to a prefabbed external authority, also known as a consensus reality narrative. And you have every freedom and right to do so. But the point is, especially if it resonates with you, then do it. If it speaks to your condition, then do it. My legacy, my teachings have always been to trust your own inner guidance system. Search your feelings. Use the force. Because only you know you. Only you do you best. And nobody else except you has lived a second of this life. So either you can completely trust yourself or trust what you've been given, what you've been spoon-fed. Or establish a balance between scriptures that you can actually rely on, but use them as maps. Don't mistake them for the territory. Because ultimately what scripture does is talk the talk. A bit like I'm doing now. But walking the walk is a different path entirely. As Morpheus says in The Matrix, there's a big difference between knowing the path and walking the path. So I'm just freely giving out these nuggets to you in order for you to take what resonates, and the rest is up to you, obviously. So the essential philosophies of Gnosticism and Vedanta is that this is the material world and it's a hoax, it's a prison, and we need to get out because we're trapped here. But notice how these philosophies are essentially springing from a sort of victim mentality. Like, poor me, this happened to me. I'm in the material world. I'm a spiritual being. I shouldn't be here. I need to go back to God. My conclusion is that this philosophical position is suicidal, really. And if you really want to be free, have fun, and have faith, then it's of utmost importance, utmost necessity, to make peace with the material world, to be at peace with it and see it as a beautiful extension of the spiritual world. Not a perversion, not a place of darkness, but a place of true beauty, where one can actually thrive and create his or her own reality. So, knowing that we are one consciousness, we can really be free. We can have fun with each other and just have faith that, as Dame Julian of Norwich said, sin is permissible. Sin as in missing the mark or what have you. But all shall be well. All shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. So, the Vedas refer to this material world as Maya, the illusion. If you go into etymology, which unlocks so many meanings, Maya has the same root as mother, as measurement, mind, meter. So really, Maya is the world as measured. And the mind is the instrument that measures existence. So, in order to be free of Maya, you have to go out of your mind.